Yeah, we're live. He says.
Hello. It's my favourite subject. Superheroes. Can we count Kermit as a superhero, or is that a bit weird?
Yeah, whoever you want as a superhero. Squirrel Girl's my favourite superhero, which is an amazing one for a conversation starter because her comic run is awesome.
Oh, okay.
Squirrel Girl. So yeah, if Squirrel Girl can be a superhero, Kermit can be a superhero.
Right. Is that a Marvel one? I've never heard of it.
It's a DC. No, it is a Marvel one. Sorry, yeah, she was an Avenger for a little while.
Oh, okay.
That's a rabbit hole, squirrel hole. We don't want to go down because I'll be here for hours. Yeah, there's a superhero for every eventuality.
Excellent. So yeah, today we're talking about how to allow our superhero bosses to let go, to entice and I guess encourage and inspire, the other members of the team to have a voice and to have their say and to be part of the team and to take it to, different goals. It's not just one goal, is it? But so tell me, what's your experience with, being either a superhero or being part of a team where there's a superhero manager boss there?
I've had both, and no doubts. I can remember times when I was kind of thinking that it was a good thing to be in that mindset, that kind of protective, heroic, white knight kind of mindset. And I've heard it called, one of my favorite phrases for it is actually park ranger leadership, which is where essentially you rush into the wilderness to save the people that have got trapped. They're not trapped at all. They're wild camping, and you rush in and save them, scoop them up in your van, and take them home. And it's like, oh, we were doing fine. We were camping. Again, it's that I quite like that phrase of that kind of swooping in and saving people, even when they're not lost. And it's that I've been there where you kind of, I think something to kind of pull out is that rarely is it done with a selfish intent. Nobody goes into, I'm going to be a superhero and it will help me. And there's a little bit of martyrdom in some elements of it, but generally speaking, it's done from a good intention. I want to help my team. I want to protect my team. You're doing it because you think you're doing the right thing by shielding them in some way. The reality is, rarely does that actually help them, particularly if it is a binary thing of they don't do it, they don't do the work, I'll do the work. I'll protect them from all aspects of it. And it's easy to get caught up in that. I remember
actually just stopping you briefly there because I'm thinking about that word shields for kind of an NLP perspective. That word from a language perspective, obviously think about a shield. A shield is there to protect, but there's nothing that comes out. That's the problem, isn't it? So you're there to shield, but if you are that superhero leader, then you're kind of in that bubble and maybe not asking for help and not giving anything back. And that can be really bloody lonely, can't it?
It is incredibly lonely because it becomes a habit. I protect them from that big thing.
Yeah.
Well, actually, there's a smaller thing that it's only a small thing, but I did it for the big thing, so I'll protect them from the small thing. And then there's another small thing, and there's another small thing. And it can become really lonely because if you think about it, you're kind of keeping a level of darkness away from them by keeping the darkness to yourself. Yeah. And so you sit in that space. You sit in that. If it was a good thing, if you knew deep down and you believed deep down and you could see deep down how it would help them, you wouldn't hesitate. But there's something missing in your ability to see what's going on. And we'll talk about whether that's trust or other stuff in a little while. But so therefore you embrace the dark elements of that. And that becomes really lonely. And you habify it. And you just keep doing it, and it's very hard to break. It's very hard to break.
The longer they do it, the harder it is to get out of that. But the more obvious it is, it's like that massive elephant in the room, isn't it? Because the whole team can see that the leader is probably taking on too much and overwhelm and burnout, and they so desperately want to help, and they know that they can, but the leader's like, no, it's my job. I can do this. I've been paid to do this. And especially, I think when a company's going through restructure, and things might not be going so brilliantly, the leader's like, right, I can't let the team know what's going on because otherwise they're going to feel really deflated. This is maybe the current mindset that they're in. And they might think, oh, God, they're going to jump ship and go to another company who's doing better. And, but actually there is, coming back to NLP, you cannot not communicate. So even if you're not saying what's actually going on, people can feel it, people talk and it's so damaging, isn't it? So rather than keep everything to yourself, it's much better, the skills that we teach, isn't it? It's all around not telling everybody everything by any means, but letting go. And I think a really nice reframe on letting go is to embrace. So instead of, asking the leaders to let go of everything, it's just like, right, well, embrace what's around us. And these people are here for you. You are all together as a team. And what can you do together to, find out what's going on to make things a lot better for everybody?
I think it's that one of the reasons I kind of titled this the superhero leadership is because it brings that image up, doesn't it, of strength, of resilience.
Yeah.
That's kind of there's power in some of those characteristics, but not all the time. Strength isn't being the strongest one, being able to stand there with the shield and take the flak. There's a time for that, but actually continuously doing that will erode your strength. I remember we talk about restructure triggering my brain. One of the back in my corporate days, huge restructure over a period of years as we outsourced, and so much kind of confusion, so much work to be done, so many things to deal with that you kind of you start to adopt this kind of, I can't explain this to myself, let alone to anybody else, so therefore I won't. And it's better to shield people. It's better to keep people away from all the confusion, all the stuff we're trying to work through, and just everything's moving forward. And kind of you start adopting a general bland attempt to protect them from what you're feeling, which is, will this work? This will never work. This will only work if this happens. What are the risks? Oh, what if that happens? That might mean this. You start thinking all these things. So you think, well, I want to protect them from thinking that. And one of the
start taking responsibility for how other people are going to react to it, which is impossible. You can't do that. As humans, we can take responsibility for our thoughts and our behaviors. But as soon as we come into the realms of going, well, actually, I'm going to be responsible for how somebody else deals with that and copes with that, then first of all, you're kind of adopting a kind of a mind reading approach, which isn't helpful. And you're kind of guessing how things are going to turn out. And you're, kind of predicting the future that's not even been created yet. So, it's not very helpful, is it?
It's not. And I remember somebody pointing out to me, somebody in my team saying, do you trust us? And me saying, of course I do. Of course I do. Of course I trust you implicitly. And to me, I trusted my team implicitly. Autonomy, impact, all that kind of stuff. Is simple. You trust us to do the work. You're not trusting us to think about the work, about the future work. You're not trusting us to deal with this ourselves. And it kind of, it took me a while, but it was kind of, actually, I clearly don't trust them to handle it.
That's it.
And if I trust them, I trust them. And I trust that if they don't handle it, they'll ask for help. They'll figure it out. It's that kind of, it's almost a parental thing, isn't it? In terms of you want to protect them from all the harm, but that some of the harm they've got to work through. They've got to figure it out themselves, because you can't be there to protect them all the time. And figuring that out is really hard. But I remember that conversation of them distilling it down. You don't trust us. I do trust you. And I believed I did, but to a point. And actually, if you're going to trust somebody, trust them. And I think that's something that's a really useful thing to do is maybe pointing out, do you trust us? If you trust us, trust us to handle it as much as to do it.
Yes.
And we will trust you that if we're not handling it, you'll ask us if we're all right. There's that two-way thing there. And I think, that really shifted my thinking about that kind of good intentions, that heroic, well, I must keep all this confusion and stuff away from them as we were going through the restructure, the outsourcing. Whereas actually, again, coming back to your point about language, you start thinking, well, I should expose them to it. No, talk to them about it, share it, embrace the confusion and the fact that not just that facts are confused, feelings are confused. Explore it. Explore should be the word I say every seventh word. It's just a brilliant word. But explore it, share it, chat about it, discuss it, engage with it. And I think it's that kind of, well, if I tell you, you can't help solve it, but telling you helps me think about it differently.
That's it.
And that's setting for the solution.
No, it's so true. And one of the things that kind of popped into my head was about that kind of belief pattern that leader was in at that moment. And I wondered if they have a really, really kind of a really, really good level of self-esteem and, they're really high, or actually, during this conversation, I'm thinking, well, maybe that superhero leader, their self-esteem is really, really low. So that they're, maybe keeping everything to themselves so that they have that element of control and power to make them feel better. So it would be interesting to see, actually, what that, I don't know, obviously everybody's completely different, bearing in mind what goes on at home and their family lives and their friends and all these other things, and what they've been through from the word go until where they are now, and how that reflects in their self-esteem. But their self-esteem has a massive impact, doesn't it, on obviously themselves, but for everybody around them. And it's that dynamic has a massive effect on the team, isn't it, really? And as soon as we, I guess, as leaders, become aware of where our self-esteem sits, the better. So then we can go, well, actually, yeah, I am feeling a bit like that. And actually, I do need to embrace something else. And I love this quote that the moment you think you know everything is the moment you know nothing. And that's just a real reminder, isn't it? That, those kind of superhero leaders, like, smash all the goals and all those kind of other things. But the moment they say, right, well, I know it all and I don't need anything else, is actually they've kind of reached square one again, haven't they?
I think what you're describing there reminds me of that kind of, in some extent, I've come up against it with people who are kind of surviving in their role, in their team, in their organization, where I've got a soft spot for IT ops. I've worked many years in IT operations, service management, as well as development in other spaces. But you can see it a lot in that kind of firefighting, on call all the time kind of mindset. And actually, I've had conversations about, why are you doing, to perhaps some of the leaders of the roles, why are you doing the coding? Why are you fixing the problem? And so you get the usual surface stuff. Well, it's quicker, it's easier. I don't need to get somebody else up. I can do it. But quite often, what's revealed is I feel good doing it. When I do my actual job, I'm stymied by HR. I can't do what I want. I feel maybe I haven't got the skills to lead in the way I want to. I'm just I'm floundering that. But when I sit here at 2 o'clock in the morning with a problem on the code, I can fix it. And it's nice to feel like I can do something.
Yeah.
And I think superhero leadership sometimes falls back on that comfortable. Well, you know what? I'm used. I can go to the meetings and just tell them no, and or just say yes and not tell anybody else, and I'll do the work. I'll figure it out of hours.
Yeah.
I can just do that. I've got used to doing that. But actually, if I have to go and sit down with my team and talk to them about the amount of work that's coming in, it's going to be really hard, and we have to go through. And it's kind of you lean into your comfort zone. And it becomes exactly as you said, a self-esteem thing. I haven't got the strength or the confidence to do what really needs to be done. The reality is you do. You're expending energy, you're expending effort, capability on this uncomfortable thing. You might as well spend it on something that's uncomfortable and is likely to ease things down the path. So I think you're absolutely right. That kind of self-esteem often bubbles under there, and it's digging into, is that what is really going on? Why are you doing that? Oh, it seemed easier. Why did it seem easier? And like you say, challenging yourself. Self-awareness. I mean, we talked about this before, but noticing you're doing it, accepting you're doing it, and then just being curious about whether you want to do it that way and what your other options are. That kind of level of self-awareness is key to not just noticing if you're being a superhero, but I think quite often team members, there's some responsibility in the team as well. That kind of, if you feel you're being protected, take a moment to kind of reflect on your own behavior. Have you become kind of used to waiting for work?
That's it. Letting somebody else take the lead.
You kind of, they do this, but actually have you adapted your behavior as a result of that? Do you ask?
It's easy to do. It happens over time, and sometimes we don't even notice it, don't we?
Yeah. You get used to kind of just waiting for something to come along. Well, if it was important, they give it to me, or sod them. All those types of behaviors they become habits as much as the superhero element. You become the sidekick that responds to the superhero rather than being a hero of your own.
I think that kind of made me think about a situation I was in, and I've been working, as you know, for many years in sales, and that kind of superhero leader. They feature quite a lot in sales, don't they? Because it's like, woohoo, I've got the best figures this month, the more KPIs, the this and that. And it's like, well, the kind of the sales director's like, right, well, you should do what Kevin's doing over there because he's hitting his targets, he's smashing them, so you should do what he's doing, copy him. But actually, there are some skills and tools around that, and maybe working out what Kevin's doing and how he's doing it. But I was never going to be Kevin because I'm not him. And I have a very different way of talking and have a very different way of relating and building conversations. And it's like, well, if you can't be Kevin, then actually, why are you even here? And then you're like, oh, okay, well, as a result of that, Kevin was getting all the best events. He was getting all the, the really good, juicy stuff to work on, the really interesting stuff, the creative stuff. And then over a period of time, like you just said, it's like, well, why should I bother? And I see that a lot in teams now, especially in sales, because if you're not considered to be the best, then, kind of what's the point of you being here and you're only as good as your last sale? And it's like, oh, there's that constant need to always deliver. So if you're not the superhero, then where's your place in that environment? And then obviously we know that leads to disconnection and presenteeism. And it's like, oh, okay, like I said before, sod it, let Kevin do his job. He's best at it and he can just carry the rest of the team. Whereas, sometimes I've been the superhero in the past and I've kind of had an opportunity to do that. And then as a result of that, other people have seen it from the other side. They're like, oh, okay, well, Tasha's just, she's doing brilliantly. She doesn't need us. We're going to, we're just going to take some extra time off work and let her get on with it. And then, the team kind of spirit just goes, through the floor, and the team kind of rewards and the KPIs go through the floor because nobody else is pulling their weight. And it's like, well, I've done really well, but nobody else is. And as a result of that, then kind of what the point? So there's so many different ways that it affects you as a person, and it's just about finding the balance in that so that you kind of don't go down that road of always doing the same thing and accepting that, because it just doesn't work long term, does it? It might be a great short-term fix, but at what cost?
Absolutely is so not sustainable, and we need to shift from rewarding that type of result to understanding how results are created, and rewarding the how and the way as much as the result itself. And it's kind of, I use the word leadership a lot rather than leader, because leadership is something everybody should embrace. The leadership element of you turning up and doing leadership is helping others do their job, helping others be better prepared for their next job. It's helping others grow. That's the leadership.
Yeah.
To me, that's what leadership is about. If somebody is a superhero leader, in the definition we've used, they're not doing that. They're just getting results no matter the cost.
Yeah.
There will be a good intention in there, most likely, but they focused on the result rather than the leadership.
Yeah. And the people.
They're a leader, and they're not displaying leadership. And we've got to stop rewarding leaders and start rewarding leadership.
Yeah. And
it's a subtle difference, but it's a really powerful one.
Yeah. And the result of that is just incredible, isn't it? Firstly, obviously, we've got the emotional intelligence and the emotional capabilities of those people being able to create that feeling of joy at work and actually look forward to being part of the team. And it's all about really understanding more about each person as well, because when the focus and the spotlight is taken off one particular person, then all of a sudden everybody else gets to turn and they get to bring them, their full selves to work, and then everybody becomes, like you said, more interested in the person and the how rather than the end result. So it becomes more person focused rather than result focused. And funnily enough, as a result of that, the results end up going in the right direction anyway.
I think, kind of an analogy of kind of the stages where your team perform, the lights are there to be shone on whoever needs them shone on at that moment in time. And it can be one person, it can be a group, it can be a small subset, it can be all of them. It might be a different person deciding where to shine the lights because they've got better context and understanding of what's going on, and that can shift around. That leadership element is experimenting, exploring when and where to shine that light. Sometimes on yourself. Don't be afraid to shine it on yourself. But actually, that's just part of the flow of the lights and making sure that the whole production comes alive when it needs to. Sometimes that's spotlight on one, sometimes that's on everybody, or a mixture of in between. And it's that when you're being a superhero leader, you think you're doing it for the right reasons, but what you're really doing is keeping the spotlight on you.
Yeah.
And at some point, the pressure of the audience just continuously staring at you will get to you. And at some point, the rest of the cast, the rest of your team will be going, well, I've got lines to say. Or they'll start going, delivering their lines half-heartedly, like you said, with presenteeism or whatever, kind of, I'll do my bit then. Yeah, you carry on. And it's, the frustrating thing is it's created from that good intent. Channel that good intent in a different way.
But it's extremely hard for those people who are in that kind of mindset to let go, because they're like, well, if I start sharing the knowledge that I've got, then actually my place in the organization might be tested and I might be shifted somewhere else where I don't want to be, or downgraded. So there's that element of fear that comes into it all the time, isn't there?
Isn't it funny how we quickly go to, I might be shifted somewhere else, or I might not have a job I enjoy as much, rather than, well, if I do this, I might get access or opportunities that I enjoy even more. It's weird, isn't it? They're at least 50% more likely.
It's that shield element, isn't it?
But our default stance is, and it's probably based on experience because it's happened before, or we've seen, or we've heard it happen before. Is, if I do this, it will be worse for me. And it's kind of, well, what if you shifted your thinking and said, if I do this, it will be better for me? You don't know. You don't know anyway.
But it's not a way to live your life.
Oh, absolutely. Thinking it's going to be worse is not helping. So what have you got to lose? From a small business perspective, if I when I decided to set up my own business, it's kind of, what if it doesn't work? And it's okay to have that thought, to think about risks, to think about consequences, but also allow yourself the opportunity to think, what if it does work? And it's the same with this. Okay, so I'm not liking the way, I can see that I'm being a superhero leader, or I can see that I'm not helping myself or my team. And I can see that there are things I'm concerned about, but what if I flip those concerns and thought, what if this helped my team grow? What if I got better as a leader? What if I got better as a team member? What if I got new opportunities?
And that's, it can be really uncomfortable to at least, firstly accept that, but then go through that process of going, oh God, well, people are going to see me not knowing everything. But actually, that's one of the best things that anybody can ever say in that situation, isn't it? I haven't got all the answers and I don't know everything. So I need you to help me, learn. And then from there, the whole floodgates of information and knowledge and connection are just opened, aren't they?
Absolutely. I think that's strength. That's proper strength. We use the word vulnerability sort of as a counter to strength, but they go hand in hand to me, that, we need to reframe, we need to rebadge strength as exactly that, as being open to the idea that you don't have all the answers, but what you do have is a desire to find answers, to help others come up with the best answer you can possibly come up with, and with what you have available: time, resources, people, thoughts, insight, diversity, all that, experiences, all that kind of stuff. One thing I would kind of recommend is, again, stretching the superhero analogy as far as I can. If you try and do it while you're think of a superhero mid-fight, mid-defending the galaxy. If you try and change, your way at that point, or tag in somebody surprising, all right, you come join me, and just drag them in, it doesn't always work that well. Sometimes it's worth thinking about, okay, what's coming up that I can shift the way I behave, shift the way I think, try different things, rather than doing it with something that I'm immersed in. I've already put the shield up, and my arm's tired. Maybe instead of doing something different from what's coming on this side, I look at what's coming in from that side, and I'll shift things around there. I'll ask more questions about this thing that's coming up front. I'll ask my team what questions they've got. I'll meet their questions with more questions, not just rush to answers about this thing that's coming up. Maybe be more open about it earlier, so that kind of build that habit in from the beginning of it, not just the end of it or halfway through. And it's not, I think quite often what people think with, well, if you're not a superhero leader, that means you delegate. Somebody else to do it. Again, that's almost binary thinking. It's not you do it or somebody else does it, whether you're a leader or a team member or whatever. Sometimes the answer can be in between. It can be a sharing of it. It can be, you start, I'll pick it up, or can I contribute? You're probably best to lead on this. Can I contribute to it? Figure it out together about the best way to get it done. Don't just assume that, well, if I'm not doing it, then to not be a superhero leader, I will delegate it. Explore. explore it in terms of
Mhm.
who's the right person, who are the right people that can do this in the right way right now.
Yeah, yeah,
That context bit is really important. So
definitely.
again, it's not the answer to not being a superhero leader isn't binary. Uh,
Mhm.
explore what the best way, based on what you all think in that moment, is.
Yeah, yeah. And I was just trying to get into the head of the superhero leader and thinking they would be going down that loop of, right, well, I can do this. I'm the best person for the job. And, like you said before, I've done this in the past and I've kind of given the responsibility over to somebody else, or they've shared it with me and it hasn't gone well. And then they become into that pattern of, well, I've done the job. I've, done a brilliant job. I didn't need anybody else, so I'm just going to do it again for the next project. And then they kind of get to the phase where they do it and do it and do it again, project after project after project. And then they're like, well, actually, nobody else is doing anything. Why am I? Why am I the only person doing this? So at the beginning, it's like, it's really exciting. They're fully in control and they love the buzz and the energy around that. And then after time goes on, the realization suddenly hits them that actually, this is really freaking tiring. And then, they're tired at work, they're tired at home, their relationships struggle at home and with their families and their friends and stuff. And then they're like become really disenfranchised and be like, oh, actually, yeah, what I thought was a brilliant way of doing things actually isn't. But what do I do now? How do I change it? How do I fix it?
There was a team in the police who were exploring some of this stuff, and one of their members, one of the team members, was actually really good and got very fulfilled by
Mm.
the aspect of the job, which was going to uh, the public and delivering bad news. They,
Mm.
they got something out of being there, the
Mm-hmm.
supporting, the caring element of that role. Other team members, not so much.
Mm.
What that meant was she defaulted to that role
Yeah.
because she was best at it. It was right
Mm.
for her. She, to an extent, she enjoyed it. It fulfilled her. She got meaning out of that aspect of the role. There came a point where she didn't, because she was
Mm.
doing it all
Yeah.
the time. And
Yeah.
instead of raising that turned into resentment. And
Yeah.
actually, it's really important to understand the contextual element of these things. That last bit on that question, who are the right people to do this in the right way right now? That
Mm-hmm.
right now is contextual. It can change, and it's okay for it to change. It's okay for you to say, I know I usually do this, but you know what?
Mm-hmm.
I've not got it in me at the moment.
Yeah.
Help.
Yeah.
And can
Yeah.
somebody else step up, or what can we do to just give me? And it's not that you're failing. It's not that you're weak. It's actually you are no longer the right person to do it in the
Yeah.
right way right now. That's
Mm.
okay. That's what being in the team is.
Yeah. Yeah.
You adapt and you evolve to those things.
Exactly. And
Your
I think it's good
core
for those.
talents don't pigeonhole you to say this is what you will do for the rest of your life
Yeah.
while you're in this team. You will do 1, 2, and 3, and I'll do 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
sometimes you need a break from 3, and
Mm.
somebody else can help.
And I think it's what's super important with that as well, being a superhero leader, is that when they do have those moments when things don't work out, it's like, okay, if they were kind of responsible for something, it's standing there and apologizing and doing what they need to do, but also showing their vulnerability in front of their teams and explaining, what happened and what didn't go right and what they could do differently next time. And having that open conversation rather than, oh, well, that didn't work brilliantly. Let's kind of put that under the rug and pretend it never happened. That's never going to lead to growth, isn't it? And then from those kind of conversations, you can find out what other people are interested in so that you've got the opportunity for next time when that next project happens or that next piece of work, go, actually, you showed an interest in that. Is that something that you'd like to, they might not know it all then, but is it something you'd like to learn about? And what skills and tools would you like? What training and development would you like? And where can we send you so that you get that, so that you've got the skills to do that job in the future and, to dip into those kind of roles? But that's never going to happen if failure doesn't happen.
I saw, I'm not sure it was yesterday or a couple of days ago, Matt Blakely, connection on LinkedIn, does some amazing stuff. And I saw he posted some paradoxes of leadership.
Mm.
And one of them I love is spending more time with your team gives you more time back.
Yeah.
And that's true of any team member. That's not true of the leader. I know that's true of every team member. And it's this: if you're away flying off on missions, saving them, you're not spending time with them.
Mm.
And there is an element of people, well, like you said, this is quicker. I can do this. I can do this best. I can get this done.
Mm.
But sharing that is the quick thing I'll share at the end. But sharing that, I think this is what I'm best at. I think this is what I do well, and what I should do most of the time. Share that. so that people are aware, but also then share that. It makes it easier in the future when you can say, I know I said these were my go-to things, but I'm not feeling it, or there's something going on. I don't really want. It's a good way of being able to drop into the conversation, drop into, looking after yourself, having the self-esteem and self-respect. Say, you know what, there's stuff going on that I haven't got the energy. I can't do this to the best of my ability.
Yeah.
I don't want to go into detail, but can you help?
Yeah.
And just because you quite often get in teams this kind of, I've seen superhero leadership where, well, my team are going through some tough stuff, not just the work, but actually they got some stuff going on at home. So I'll protect them from that as well.
Yeah.
Finding a way to make it that more open, that actually a member of your team is struggling, without pointing the finger, without that being a gossip thing, without that being a problem, and actually it being a thing of support, and then being able to go into as much detail or as little as they want.
That's it.
That's where the answers are.
Yeah, because the chances are if that one person is experiencing something, then somebody else is too. And why not have, an education piece, a conversation starter, a workshop around that, so that you know how to spot the signs and to help that person get the help they need. It's not a one size all fits package, is it? But at least be able to give people those paths to get the right help at the right time. That's so, so important in terms of well-being and looking after ourselves and our teams, isn't it?
It is. And it'll happen to you as well. At some point, you will need some help.
Yeah.
At some point, you won't be the best person to do that thing.
No.
And if you've got into the habit of doing it by default, it's not going to work out well.
No.
So, yeah, I think in those, it's interesting, not just in the calm times, not just in the okay times, but in those pressured times, you actually need to lean into your team more. And I think it goes against that kind of conditioning we've had, which is to be the strong one, to protect, to solve the problems yourselves. You need, I think, acknowledging that doing more together ultimately save time. It will ultimately save suffering. It will ultimately save money. The answer isn't in being alone, trying to eliminate that darkness by yourself. It's healthier to see the darkness and to express it, and to celebrate the fact that you're not alone.
Yeah. Get rid of those cloaks, people.
Nice. Superhero cloaks are the most dangerous thing ever. So many. What's that from? That's the Invincibles, isn't it?
Yeah.
Cracking film. You can always find. Geek will always give you the answer you're looking for. So yeah, if you want to be able to best serve your team, so I'm just trying to wrap up my thoughts. If you want to be able to best serve your team, to have the time, the ability, the capability, the energy to really help them, I think something to note is you won't have it if you've been constantly saving everyone who doesn't really need it. There are times when you need the energy to step in.
Yeah.
Maybe do a bit of kind of somebody who is actually lost in the wilderness and does need help. There is a time that you will need.
There is. Yeah, there's a time for that disconnection and separation.
Yeah, make sure you've got the energy to do it when it really counts. And that, the rest of the time, act as a superhero team.
Exactly. Embrace it.
Justice League, they're there.
Definitely. Great stuff.
Cool.
Lovely. And no, I think next time, I'm not sure what we're going to be talking about next time, but it's always relevant from what we've been discussing over the last week or so, isn't it? And who we've been talking to. Yeah,
I quite like that we kind of pick up what's kind of on our minds for the week and what other people are coming up with. So yeah, let's see. I'm conscious it's not half term, is it? It's Easter holidays over the next couple of weeks as well. So we check our diaries, but I'm sure we'll be around in some form. But yeah, enjoyed that as always.
Yeah, great to see you and see you next week.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.